Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today I'm proud to bring you THEOSOPHIA, Esoteric Studies. Lynne Salomon Miceli is our host for this presentation. Greetings, Lynne. How are you?
You. Thanks. Nice to be here. Thank you, Hercules.
Nice to have you here. I look forward to your presentation.
Okay, great. My guest tonight is Ron Schueneman, who's going to be talking about some of the devices that Edgar Cayce recommended for healing and wellness. For anyone not familiar with Edgar Cayce, there are some people who aren't. He was an American psychic and mystic who lived from 1877 to 1945 and gave over 14,000 psychic readings that were taken down by a stenographer. His readings covered topics from spiritual development, reincarnation and karma, holistic healing, and he sometimes gave advice and instructions on inventions of various kinds. It's said that he gave readings to both Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison, although we don't have records of those readings, so we're not sure that really happened. But anyway, he gave readings for many inventors, and tonight we're going to be talking about the devices for healing, specifically devices that were for healing purposes, and mostly electrical, but not all electrical. So about Ron Schueneman has had a 43-year career as an electrical engineer. He got interested in electricity in his teens, which led to an engineering career in power electronics, which is a branch of electrical engineering that focuses on processing, controlling, converting electrical power from one form to another. He started studying the Cayce readings in the mid-70s and continues to the present. He's a longtime member and volunteer with the ARE, and ARE stands for Association for Research and Enlightenment. It's the organization that preserves and shares the Cayce information. Ron has always been interested in the merging of science and spirituality, and in 2002, he bought the Edgar Cayce radial appliance. That's one of the things it's called. And he did find that it worked. So he went on to acquire and work with other devices that were either based on the Edgar Cayce readings, came from or created through the Edgar Cayce readings, or that Cayce recommended. He's lectured about the Cayce healing devices to ARE audiences in various parts of the US. And I'm delighted to have him here tonight. Welcome, Ron.
Oh, thank you. Glad to be here.
Good. Good. It's nice having you. So since Ron is an electrical engineer, he could probably talk about these devices in a very technical way, but I'm not an electrical engineer, and probably most of our listeners are not. So we're going to try to not get too technical, but to share what might be useful for people. And I thought we might start by talking about the simplest one that we plan to discuss, which is called the cold coin. And it is not an electrical device. Some people would not call it a device at all, but it is a healing object that was created based on information from the Cayce readings. So Ron, can you tell us about the cold coin?
Well, there was a man who had chronic colds. He had them all the time, and he got a reading, and he said, well, all you need to do is put some carbon steel, preferably in a pocket, but it would work even better if it was a growing pocket. Or people also do it around their neck near the heart. If it's close to an artery, that's when it's most effective. And it's the reason I have that covered in part is that it's the carbon steel is a key element to the radioactive appliance. So, but it worked. And his colds went away. So Bruce Barr, at BAAR.com sells lots of. He's the official supplier of Cayce products, things that came from the readings. So we came up with this cold coin, which weighs about 12 grams, and it's got a hole in it, so you can put it around your neck. And I bought a couple. Yeah, go ahead.
You said before, you said one of the ways he recommended to use it was to put it in your groin pocket. So it's by the groin where there's a big artery also. So
That's
that seems,
that's my understanding. Well, and there was a good reason for it. Yeah.
yeah. So it seems to have something to do with those big arteries, the working of it.
Well, yeah, because there's it's near the blood flow, and the blood has salt in it, so it's definitely conductive, and so it creates a magnetic field.
Hmm.
And it's well known that the Earth has a magnetic field, but if you have an iron object, it'll concentrate, and make a stronger field. And so, however, I lost those because they're only that big. And the first job I had out of college was at a company where I was the only electrical engineer. So there's a lot of mechanical stuff going on there, and I already knew that carbon steel was the most common. It's very common, and it's used in bolts, nuts, and washers. So I figured bigger is better, and I use these babies, especially during COVID, because a cold is a coronavirus, and so is what we call the Corona-19 virus. So.
I've been hearing about that all my life, but it dawned on me that I don't exactly know what that is, because I think of carbon as being organic, but steel is metal. So what exactly is that?
Well, carbon is an element. It's got 6 protons and I guess 6 neutrons, because it has its atomic weight of 12, hair over 12. And organic chemistry has to do with compounds that include carbon, oxygen, phosphorus, and a number of other things. That's what organic chemistry is. But this is an element. If you take a bunch of it and smash it down, what do you get? With a high pressure, you get a diamond.
Mm.
So a diamond doesn't walk and talk, but they're real popular, right? So.
Right. Good point.
Interesting thing, in the periodic table right under carbon is silicon. And it has the same combining properties chemically as carbon, at least in terms of oxygen. I just did a quick lookup on that. It's got 14 protons and 28 atomic weight, so also 14 neutrons. And people have speculated that if there's carbon-based life forms, there might be silicon-based life forms, but I don't think we've found any yet. But it's a thing of science fiction and speculation.
Carbon steel is just steel with a certain percentage of carbon in the formula for it.
Yeah, and for the in the case of the cold coin, by the way, is trademarked by Bruce Barr, but in using carbon steel that way, there wasn't any designation as to how much carbon. However, for the radioactive appliance, it was specifically what they've been using is ANSI 1060, which is 0.55 to 0.66% carbon. The readings actually gave those numbers or numbers like those, but had the decimal in the wrong place. But you can Cayce's didn't have any technical training, so but they figured it out. There is no such thing as 5% carbon steel, but there is in the smaller amounts, like I just mentioned.
Cold coin, you just wear it either around your neck or in a pocket, the groin pocket, and it keeps you from getting colds, and you find that it works.
Well, ever since I got off of dairy, I haven't had a problem with colds personally. But during COVID, I wore 2 of those. I put one in the left pocket and one in the watch pocket, and I do have one type of pants that actually does have a groin pocket. And honestly, just before I went on a trip in 2022, I did do it and went into a store a couple times. And I didn't wear a mask on the way to my flight to Milwaukee, and I got COVID. for the first time and only time, but a very mild case. So,
You weren't,
so I don't know if
you're,
it works, but I did it as a little insurance during COVID, when it was, very contagious and a bigger problem.
so the one time you went out without the cold coins and the mask, you got COVID.
Yeah, well, on the flight, I didn't wear it.
Yeah.
And I had to on the way home because I was still testing positive. So.
So you've already started talking about the they call it, there's a lot of different names for this. Some people call it the radial appliance and some call it the radioactive appliance, which is kind of misleading. And sometimes it's called the Radiac, but I see one, I think that's one right behind you.
Yeah, I have a
So-
whole slide. I have a whole slide on that. It's called the naming, something like identity crisis for the name. There is a reading. It was originally called radioactive appliance. It has nothing to do with ionized radiation that comes from unstable heavy atoms like uranium. The radio back in Cayce's day was often used for an analogy of higher frequency energy, like for tuning a radio, for attuning yourself in meditation. In this case, it implies that the energy involved is higher frequency, and it's really that energy, the healing energy that healers use, Reiki energy, healing touch therapy, all that stuff is a pervasive energy of the creator that's throughout the whole universe. And it has some interaction with electricity, but they're largely orthogonal. In other words, electrical engineering, you can't see it, you can't see it. You don't see radio waves, you don't see electrons coursing through through conductors. However, we have instruments where we can measure all that stuff very accurately. It's a very precise science, electrical engineering.
I think I see the Radiac behind you. Is that it? The little blue
Yeah.
object? So
This is a style that was kind of the original design. The reading said something about having a copper case. This one has to be brass. This particular generation was from Tom Dewey. He used to make them for the Heritage Store in Virginia Beach.
Mhm.
And it's very simple device. This is two carbon steel plates that are used in it. And it's they put glass in between, they pack carbon sheets around it. From an electrical engineering standpoint, it's just a resistor, but it's very wide bandwidth and it has an iron carbon core. And an old core with the carbon around it, Tom used to wrap it with masking tape. And then it's put in, and then it's packed in this steel case with charcoal around it. So it's as I just reread today, basically it works with that healing energy that's within us. It works within the kind of what I thought was called prana 2. But prana is an ancient ancient Indian term for the healing energy or God energy. Back in the when a lot of this information was compiled, I'll mention that one of my main source for studying these devices is what's called a circulating file. People took the Cayce readings, studied them, had experts look at them, researched them, and then when they had a lot of information on it, they created a circulating file which you could borrow from the library and then send back to, or bring it back or send it back. You can still borrow them today, but you have to go to the library to borrow it, but then you can mail it back. However, if you're a member, you can, most of them are digitized now, you can download them.
I was gonna say, yeah, they're online now, so you can just see them online.
I
So
heard them say that they're not all, which I haven't asked yet which ones aren't, but there's a lot of them that are. So I mean, there's a lot of ones for health and a lot of ones from the life readings. So, but Cayce gave over 14,000 readings, and 80% of them were for health. And occasionally he would call out the use of an electrical device. And so let me finish up on this. So, but going back to the radioactive appliance. So radio is was used for shorthand. And I did have a slide that got a better definition, but there where it was. So radioactive, I concluded it was vibrational forces of the body. And radio is just an abbreviation for that. The Radiac is Bruce Barr's trademark for what he sells. And his look like this. This is the one I bought in 2002. It's just got two electrical terminals, and they're directly go into the two steel bars that I showed. To use it, however, you put it in a container of ice water, let it cool down, and then you connect one electrode, which is made out of, for the basic use, it's these things. It's a, we used to call it German silver, but it's actually nickel. It's nickel. And you put it one on a wrist and on the opposite, and one wrist right where the arteries are, and one on the inner part of an ankle where the artery is. And there's 4 positions that are recommended to go through in order, which I did not know until more recent years. But back in 2002, when I did it, it was advertised then to help with memory, but also hypertension. And I did track my blood pressure at that time, and it did go down as I kept using it. And my memory did get a lot better, but I don't know if that did it, or the improved circulation, which it does help with circulation, or that was the first time I lived alone. And it might have been because I was buying my own food then, so I'm not sure, but my memory, short-term memory, did get a lot better after that.
and so you connect yourself, you put the wet cell into ice water, and then you connect it to one wrist and one ankle. And
And
the
it
opposite,
takes 15 to 20 minutes to cool down, and that's when it really starts to work. Now, this has been studied a lot back in the day when there were, when the ARE had a lot of members and there's a lot more research going on. There's no measurable thing that it does, but if you have, what helps with and circulation, basically it works with the iron in the device is at a lower temperature than the iron in your blood that's flowing right over those discs. So that's the mechanism that makes the connection. But if there's any electrical, if you're like upset and have there's things going on in your mind, when you do it across all your Tom Dewey's idea was that you do it from one side, from one wrist to one ankle, it'll equalize everything and it will help calm you down. But it also works on interesting, I'd forgotten. It works on anything, any cathedral condition, which would involve mucus where you normally think of mucus is in the nostrils, but it's other places as well. And so any cathedral condition. So
I'm sorry, could you say that word again? Any what condition?
let me see if I can spell it here. I should put this over here so I'm looking at the camera. Yeah. Catarrhal.
Catarrhal condition. Okay, catarrh. We're talking about,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's no H. Okay. Yeah, wasn't ever an English major. So any such condition that exists in the head, throat, nasal, ear, lung, stomach, liver, kidneys, or urinary organs. So it's a buildup of mucus in any airway or cavity of the body. Usually affects the back of the nose and throat and sinus, of course. But anyway, so just to give a real short list of what it can help with, the rest of it I have here. Headaches, tiredness, insomnia, hypertension, I proved that to myself, overwrought nerves, and colds. So if the cold going doesn't work, get one of these babies and it'll fix it. Is what the reading said, and many people have attested to.
I think people also use it for meditation to, am I right about that? To help deepen meditation, or am I making that up?
Well, the recommendation is that you're not watching TV when you're using it, so meditation is recommended. Well, since it helps calm, yes, it would help with meditation. Certainly would. So
Definitely.
but you need to do something, maybe reading a spiritual book or meditating when you use it is the recommendation of the readings.
And if it is electrical, the electricity basically it's really basically coming from your own body. Is that right? It's kind of,
That's right, yes.
it's kind of maybe stepping up the vibration of your body somehow. Is
Well, imagine if there's a ball of energy floating around your body, and so there might be a voltage differential from the top of your body to the bottom. It'd be like grounding, the whole grounding thing, earthing thing is another topic, but so it will bring the potential to zero because it's a resistor. It's you can connect a wire from there to there, but it's resistor, but it's only like 3 ohms, which is pretty low resistance as resistance goes. But it won't work. Water is part of it. The iron at the lower temperature is a part of it. Someone asked about if could they put it in the refrigerator, and it was no. Water, hydrogen, oxygen, combined with the carbon in the body, and there's carbon right in it's a carbon core resistor, because they got these sheets of carbon put around the carbon sheets around those cores, and what makes this bigger than what I showed previously is the carbon strips that are in there. So it has some of the basic elements of what our body has, but the temperature differential apparently is the key, and the water. No one actually knows how it works. I mean, the fellows that, I don't know, you haven't mentioned that book yet, but David McMillan and Douglas Richards wrote a book on how to use them, how to build them. And in there, they said no one really knows how they work. There's no scientific proof of it, at least in the back when work was done, that's recorded in the circulating file for the radioactive appliance or the radio appliance. They like to call it radio because I'll tell you why. I built this one in at A.R.E. summer camp years ago, right at the summer July 4th weekend after 9/11, and I went to the airport. That time I flew in. I went to the airport 2 hours early for the first time ever in my life. I needed all those hours to get on the plane. Because when you say radioactive, they have to call DC. It looks like a bomb. And because there were fireworks that drifted over while the epoxy was setting up, it looked like a bomb to them. But enough on that. Imagine we need to, any other questions on the radioactive appliance?
No, not really. But it's just interesting your experience that it's probably good for people to know that if you're going to fly with it, you're going to have to explain why that it's not a bomb and let it be carefully investigated by the people in the airport.
Well, it was exacerbated by anyone that does pyrotechnics. I found out they have to get checked out because they look like a bomb.
Uh.
So it was that residue that would put it over the top. But they wouldn't let me on the plane unless it was in the baggage. They wouldn't. I couldn't carry it on. So.
Yeah. Interesting.
So.
Okay, then there's the violet ray, which actually did not come from Cayce's. I mean, Cayce's readings didn't invent it, but it was something that he recommended. So do we have one of those to show people?
Yeah, that's this guy here. This was invented by Nikola Tesla. It didn't look like this back then. I got it plugged in, but that's why I can't lift it up any better. But it, I'll turn it on real quick. It's called violet ray because back then they used argon gas, and it's violet. And but it's one important point. Cayce used when he's doing health readings, whatever was available, that was available. And Nikola Tesla convened a conference with medical doctors and explained how it could be used. He understood, anyway, it's high frequency, it's high voltage, very low current, and also high frequency, so it flows right in the body. And this is the device that is normally used with a whole regimen of other things. But it is used, I use it on my eyes because of glaucoma, or actually cataracts now. For cataracts, I'm trying to cure cataracts with that and the Rife machine behind here. But it was used, it's frequently used up and down the spine at the end of a massage type of thing. It's inherently, it creates ozone, so it's inherently antibacterial. You can buy FDA approved ones that are lower power for wrinkle reduction and acne. It's been, so it increases circulation wherever you run it. How deep does it go? I have no idea. It would take a team of one or two and a team of experts to figure that out. But it was used for cancer cure when you use some certain carbon compounds that only Bruce Barr sells, called Carbon X is one of the trade names for it. That was in the reading. But he would have used other things. There are many more devices available today that would likely be used if they were around then. So I just want to make that clear. Let's see.
When you showed it, that was a particular attachment, but there are more than one attachments that go onto that can attach to the violet ray, correct?
Yeah, the mushroom is the most common, but there are well, back in the day, they had one where you could do both eyes at once, and it said, but that's not available anymore. In fact, I just used the mushroom on there myself. I found one reading that said to do it for 3 minutes, but it gets pretty warm, so I do it like about 1.5 minutes in each eye, 30 seconds on each side, and then 30 seconds in the middle when I do it. J.P. Amante, who was everything Cayce in terms of exercise and healing, his chiropractor and he told me that the older devices were lower power, and at the spa in Virginia Beach, they only, if you want them to put it on your eye, they only do it for 8 seconds, but the power is not that much lower. That's something I'm just starting to look into because I just found out about it. So I don't have any old devices to test. I get one, I helped someone get going, was lower power than the one I have. The ones that Bruce Barr sells and a few other places sell.
It's like the cold coin and the Radiac or radial device. It is available from Bruce Barr, who sells all kinds of Cayce remedies, and we'll give that website again at the end, but it's bar, it's basically bar.com, BAAR.com.
Yeah, if you click on vibrational therapies, it's in that area. He has now the prices of the Violet Ray have gone way up. You can get them from a place called the Violet One store or something like that out in LA, but they don't use them for healing. They have no information on it, and they'll disavow using it for healing. But Bruce has, you know, I got all my stuff from the circulating file, but it's a big file. So he has a book on the Radiac, he has a book on the Violet Ray, and he has special booklets for the wet cell, because the wet cell can heal some serious things like Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's and multiple sclerosis.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what we'll be talking about next. But
and
so,
the radioactive appliance or the radio appliance is more for just more modest things for healthy people, but they got an issue and they want to resolve it. The more serious things is what the wet cell would be used for. But there is an in-between use of them. For example, that's what this jar is here for. You can use with the solution jar. Is put it in series with these electrodes that I showed you.
we're talking about the Radiac, or
Well, the solution jar, it can be used with the radial appliance or Bruce Barr's Radiac, or and they're often used and they're frequently but not always used with the wet cell appliance, yeah. Right? So and specifically, like the very last page of this long hundreds of pages circulating file was an account of a guy that got Lyme disease, and he went to the doctors, and they wasn't getting any better, but he knew about the radio appliance, and Bruce actually sells a mixture just for Lyme disease, and he bought that, and he cured himself with it. But you put it in the jar and go through the directions. You have to follow the directions when you buy one of these to get it to work right. You have to clean the terminals and so on and so on. And it's a little more involved when you use the solution jars. Those have to be, you can use the solution a few times, and you dump it out and get more, and clean the whole thing.
back to the Violet Ray, though. So the things that we've mentioned that it does, it has an antibacterial function, and it stimulates circulation. Those are the things you mentioned.
Yeah, so sometimes you got a cut, or people have trouble with pimples, or you could put a Band-Aid on it and all the other stuff. Sometimes I just use that, and it's and it's done with.
I used to go to someone for facials who would use the Violet Ray on me at the end of the facial. After everything else was done, she would use the Violet Ray. That was the only time I've ever been to a practitioner who used it, but it kind of made sense as like the way to sort of seal the process of the facial. So it sort of tingles, right? It's got kind of a tingly feeling on your skin.
it's best to have someone show you how to use it. When you get it close to your skin, you want to put it on quickly. It's like continuous carpet shock. And it depending on how sensitive you are where you put it, it can freak some people out. But if you put it on, well, otherwise you have a switch. You can have a foot switch, or I rewired an outlet to have a switch in one place to plug in and the switch to switch it. I know a fellow that uses a variable voltage control for a sewing machine for his.
What you're saying about the switch,
But for myself, I just put it on fast and that's not a problem.
but the idea of the switch would be that you would put it on your skin first and then turn it on. So,
Yeah, when I do it for my eyes, I do it that way. That's why I rewired that. So I turn it on ahead of time to make sure it's working, and then I will put it on the eye, and then I'll turn it on. Because that's a more sensitive spot.
and it makes a little bit of a slightly sort of a crackling sound when
Because so does carpet shock. It's described by some people when they write about it or speak about it, they say it's static electricity. That's more of a metaphor. There's nothing static about it. It's high frequency AC. And electrons are going both directions, but it's just like a carpet shock where it jumps. So you just put it on fast and take it off fast, and you won't. Actually, one of the practitioners at the spa once didn't tell me she was going to do it, but she turned it on edge so it's more concentrated and put it where I needed it. But I wasn't ready for it. I thought she got the side instead of the end of the electrode on me, but she was right. It really worked that way. So sometimes you do it on purpose to get a more concentration. Let me give you a quick list of things it's used for. So circulation near the surface of the skin, nerves, spinal subluxations, eyes, anemia, arthritis, general debilitation, and in quotes here for those readings that said it'll pick the body up, eliminations and relaxation. I haven't tried it for baldness and falling hair because I got other things to do, I guess. Glands.
Here's my cat.
Let's see, I can't pronounce that one. I will skip that one. Let's see, that one got repeated. Possession. I didn't know. I forgot about that one. Hemorrhoids, cysts, eczema, uterine tumors, and asthma. Not sure how it'd be used, but I've got reading numbers on my well, for example, 304-4 and 304-31 covered asthma for somebody. So
We should explain that. We should explain because the audience doesn't necessarily know about that. All of the Cayce readings were numbered, and the first number, like 303, would be the person, would be a number that was given to the person, because these readings were shared, but people didn't necessarily want their private business to be known. So they could be shared without a name attached, and other people could get the benefit of the reading. So the first number is the number assigned to a person, and the second number is how many readings they've had. So 303.4 is the fourth reading for the person designated 303, and so on. So.
right, and they weren't done in sequence, and they're also for topics. Some sets of readings are on topics and not people, but yeah, it was for privacy, and they were very serious about that.
So then we could go on to the wet cell. We've already started to talk about the wet cell a little bit, and the fact that this is kind of like the one that's used for more serious conditions, chronic conditions. So
Yeah, one other comment, one last parting thing on the violet ray. Tesla did get some readings from Cayce. I was told many years ago from a board member that someone stole them, that they took the originals out. And then I also heard in more recent years that the family of Tesla, he wanted, he apparently made some patents from what he learned from Cayce, and he wanted the ARE to have those. But when they came forward to that was, they time out after 17 years or something, so it didn't matter. But so he definitely got some readings. We just don't know. I don't know that we have any of them though.
interesting. I hadn't heard that story that somebody actually took the original readings, but it kind of fits in with the fact that they came and took, he was staying when he died at the New Yorker hotel, and they came it seems kind of like the Men in Black. They came and took all of his stuff from that room because he was working with all kinds of things like, well, they referred to it sometimes as a death ray or something like that. I'm sure it had that was probably not what Tesla was intending it for, but he was working on some things that the government kind of wanted to have under their thumb.
Yeah,
Anyway.
apparently they were also kept in one place in New York, and when other parts of the government wanted them, they took a while to find it. That's a whole nother story, though. I just read it in a book recently. So the wet cell is similar to the radioactive appliance, but this one is a low voltage battery, which is documented well in that book by McMillan and Richards, and but nominally around 20 millivolts. I was once told, but I saw a graph in there where it can change when you're using it. So it's got a copper rod and a nickel rod, and a mix of chemicals off the top of my head. I don't know what they are. And when you have that one, or when you use the solution jar with the radiac or a radio appliance, you then use one large nickel terminal in the area that you're trying to heal, but most of the time it was used near the belly button, just a little bit to the right, a little bit up, I believe. And the other terminal was copper, a small copper one. I forget where you put it, but it probably rotate wrist ankle with the other one and with that big one on the near the navel. So this one you put in the chemicals and makes a battery, and this one you only can have on for so long. With the radioactive appliance, you can leave it on all night. It'll work. It'll be fine, but not with this baby. This one works directly with the nervous system, which is electrical in nature, and it's a battery. So chemicals last for so long, and then you got to do it again. You got to clean out rods and put a new set of chemicals in. So
You're talking about the chemicals. Are you talking about what goes into the solution jars?
yeah, what makes it wet? Yeah, no, there's a big. That's why I don't have one. So if I'm looking at a picture here, it has this. It doesn't always use the solution jar. Okay, solution jar is this little guy right here. This other thing is much bigger, the big bucket, and it has bar wet cell battery written on the front of it. And it's got two terminals, one that goes into each rod that goes inside. And apparently the lid holds the rods in place.
A picture of one of the wet cell that you could find quickly?
I only have it electronically.
Okay.
So I cannot do that. But
So it's like a bucket. It's like a
it's a
bucket,
bucket. Yeah, it's a bucket.
and
Plastic bucket.
you put ice into it, right?
No, no,
No? Okay.
let's see, I'll click on Wet Cell Battery System Starter Kit on his website, and it's got Vibrotech. What the heck is the chemicals? I don't see them. I forgot what they are, because I made those slides a long time ago. Maybe I put it in here. Let me see. That's the blue.
Well, we can't.
Anyway, anyway, it's just a mild chemical that creates a low voltage battery. That's all it is.
It creates a what battery?
20 millivolt, 20 thousandths of a volt, 0.02
Okay.
volts. Yeah. So it's a battery, and oh, it's called Vibradex solution. That might be what you
Right.
put in it. So, but it's nothing exotic. That's that piece. Oh yeah, copper sulfate and charcoal. I see in the picture here.
That's what creates the electricity, the electrical current.
Yeah, the Vibrotech solution is probably for the jar, for the small jar, whenever that's used. And there's also a red one I can't read. So I don't have the details in front of me on that, but that's for the, for the, did I read the list of the serious? No, I haven't. Here we go. So here's just the highlight of some of there's the two in the circulating file, page 27 and 28, there's a long list of things it's for. That's page 27. That's 28. I'll just pick some here. The Alzheimer's disease, alcoholism, arthritis, blindness, cancer, epilepsy, color blindness, I thought was interesting, hemophilia. And it's just some of the, and these are some of the more serious things. Parkinson's disease. When last time I gave a talk on this, there was a couple people in the audience that one of the women there healed her son from one of these things. I don't know if it was Parkinson's or muscular dystrophy, I forget. Also, leukemia is mentioned, or in some forms of insanity, apparently was used for. Finally, just a short version of all the ones here. Tumors, brain, breast, lymph, or uterus. It's been used to heal. For people that had those issues, that was what they were told to, and they moved the specific directions on how to use it.
I think with the wet cell and maybe the Radiac too, it's supposed to be only used for one person. Like you can't share it with the rest of your family. You can't let your friends use it. You're supposed to only use it yourself, right?
Yeah, it kind of, well, think about it. Well, let's see. With the solution jar, think about it in terms of homeopathy. They're reducing the amount of the element, whatever particular remedy it is, but you're still getting the benefit of it. Here you're getting the properties in the solution jar without actually ingesting it. It's electrically transferred. So yes, for no way to say why, but it does develop polarity. So you always put the red one on the red terminal, and always use the black wired one with the black terminal. And once you start using it, that's it. You're the only person that should use it.
Kind of.
You also put it out in the sun periodically to cleanse it. that as far as I know, that there's no reading that said maybe after 10 years, someone else could use it. That just said it's just for one person. That's correct. As far as I know.
I believe on the ARE, the National ARE's website, there's an article by someone who used it for multiple sclerosis and brought about major improvement for in his MS.
Yeah, there's been a few Venture Anywhere articles over the years on that where people actually had success with one of these devices.
Venture Inward, we should explain, is the sort of like the house magazine of the ARE. So it's one of the major things it's been used for is like regenerating nerve wellness in things like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, right?
Yes.
And in those solution jars, you're using things like silver nitrate or gold chloride. And as you said, there are things that it might not be good to swallow, but you're bringing the vibration into your body in a different way, right? Is that's
No,
the
and there's
principle?
others. Those are the most common. Yeah, apparently silver is used for kind of for antibacterial, because that's why we have silverware, because the bacteria won't grow in silver. Gold is used for healing, but there were other solutions used for particular things that are in the readings, none of which I know off the top of my head. But
These devices are intriguing, but basically all of them, the Cayce readings never said just use this device and that's it. They pretty much gave these devices were almost always used as part of a protocol involving other things, right?
that's true for the violet ray, not necessarily the others. I haven't read all the readings, but one of the ones on my slide, the reading said you can do this, or you can use the radio appliance. Either way, you could do this one regimen or use that appliance. So but understand that how to say it, this is one piece of a holistic health way to solve health problems. You start in spirit, all diseases start in your aura. Something's going wrong in your mind, your emotions, and eventually it manifests in the physical, and then you need a way to get healed. So but diet and health are really important. Our diet and exercise are also very, very important.
Yeah, well, the Cayce readings were never like take 2 aspirins and call me in the morning. They always tended to be, use this diet, do this exercise, work on your attitude, take this herb. They were use this device. They tended to be kind of like a real project to apply.
But it's especially true for the violet ray, because someone went through and compiled a multi-page document that listed every time the violet ray was used, and then what went with it, and then they coded with it various other things. So there were a few times where it was just the violet ray, but the vast majority, I believe, did have other healing modalities to go with it.
Every time it came up in the readings, it was almost always with these other healing
Most of the time,
modalities.
but I noticed a few where it was just that. Yeah, just the violet ray. And I don't have that in front of me. I do have it pulled up on the computer, though. I didn't, here
It's
it is.
okay. I think that's all right. I think we get
But
the
the
gist.
list usually has something else. Yeah, that's true. And usually several things.
So if people wanted to use any of these devices, they really need to do some research and some study on them. I would say, wouldn't you say?
Yes, especially the wet cell. You'd want to look at the readings for your exact issue. There is a circulating file for each of these devices, and then of course there's the raw readings, and the ones that. But then Bruce Barr compiled some of those books I mentioned for a few specific ones where it summarizes all that. So, but yes, it's the basic disclaimer is I'm not a medical doctor. I'm reporting what the readings have said. And originally, you had to be a member. You have to be a member of the ARE to get a reading from. I mean, you did to avoid the whole legal problem. So it's best if you have a medical professional that works with you whenever you use one of these things. It's hard to find one, but it's best if you can, and it's recommended that you do.
Some resources here. I just have the titles of some books that people might be interested in if they are interested in using these devices. And I'll just give the titles, and if somebody out there is really interested in pursuing this, you might want to get a pencil or paper. First, at the Edgar Cayce website, the website of the National ARE, it's edgarcayce.org. You can look around on that site. There's, as I said, there's information on there about the use of the wet cell for multiple sclerosis and other things. So that's edgarcayce.org. And then here's a book title. It's The Radial Appliance and Wet Cell Battery, 2 Electrotherapeutic Devices Recommended by Edgar Cayce. And that's written by David McMillan and Douglas Richards. And then there's something called Edgar Cayce Cures Using the Violet Ray for Alternative Treatments. And that's by someone named B.A. Anderson. And then there's the Violet Ray book, including Edgar Cayce readings and old manuscripts by Bruce Barr. So, and that's not an exhaustive list. There's probably much more, but there are things out there for people to do their own research. And there's a DVD. Bruce Barr has a DVD about the wet cell if you are interested in working with that. So
I might also add, there's one guy that explored the modern science of how some of these things work. That's where I bought my first violet ray from, Tom Valone. He has 2 websites. The one I remember off the top of my head is IRI.org, or I don't know, it might be com, but Integrity Research Institute. But he does a lot of future science stuff, but he also has a few devices he sells, and he's researched the science behind it. He has a whole slide thing that covers that.
Was that Integrity Research
Institute? Yeah.
Okay. And all of these devices are available from BAR, that's BAAR.com, www.baar.com. So, Ron, thank you so much for being with me tonight. And if people wanted to reach you, how would they do that?
Well, an email.
Okay, give your email address.
It's RRONN5 @outlook.com.
So 2 R's, 2 N's, 5 @outlook.com.
Yeah.
And if anybody wants to reach me, I can be reached at through the email of the New York ARE, which is edgarcaycenyc.org. And that's EDGARCAYCE. Oh, I'm sorry. info@edgarcaycenyc.org. info@edgarcaycenyc.org. So thank you so much. This is interesting and kind of amazing. In preparing for this, I was reading some of the readings about electricity where Cayce actually sort of equates electricity in some cases with God and also with life. Made me start thinking about electricity.
Our bodies are very electrical. Besides the nerves, you have ion in, you use the ions to do everything. You need electrolytes for ions to flow for all of this cell transactions, moving things in and out. So, yes.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you
Thanks so
both.
much.
That was a great show. I learned a lot, and I look forward to having you back again.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much, Hercules. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.